Hi, I'm Jamie. This is Dead Dodge Garage, and this is our 64 Chrysler Newport project. In the last video on this car, Alan and I got it running again after like 2.5 years of being stranded broken in my driveway. We put on some tires that actually hold air, moved it onto the lift in the shop here, and then proceeded to replace every single braking component, with the exception of the steel lines and the booster and master. As you can see, we're currently engaged in that. If you missed that video, I suggest you watch it because all of the important background will be found there. The important details are 361 big block under the hood with a 2-barrel carburetor that runs absolutely minty. This car is a 4-door hardtop, which is kind of awesome. It appears to be in mostly original paint. It's a little crusty in places, but that's typical of any classic Chrysler in the Northwest. Most of the lights work, including the brake light on the left, which is currently stuck on, presumably because the brake booster's coming out, so the switch is just extended now. Also, I'm guessing the turn signal switch has been hit upward, and that's why the right one's not working. Other than wheels and tires and brakes, in the last video we did clean the fuel tank and got it up and running on that again, which is excellent. We also removed a terrible tow hitch thingy that had like a bike rack fixture on it. If you need a terrible light-duty tow hitch thingy with a bike rack on it, it's here in the scrap pile with some various neon parts. Alan's currently under the dash saying bad words. Did you know changing these brake boosters is not fun? As discussed in the previous video, we're doing all of this for the owner, my friend Mitchell. He's planning to daily drive this thing once it's finally back on the road, and we're getting pretty close to that. One of the greatest things about this car is almost all of the accessories just work. Like I mentioned, the lights, also wipers, radio, heater, all of that stuff. Dome light works too. And the map light came back in the last video. That was nice. Once this mess is handled, there are a few more things we need to deal with. First, belts. This thing squeals horribly. There are some pretty good reasons for that. So we'll get new belts for the thing. We'll probably also get some plugs and wires just to make sure all of that is fresh. These may well be originals looking at the orange boots on them. An oil change would be a great idea. I think I mentioned in the last video that the coolant looked really, really good. Well, since it has run and mixed up with whatever's sitting in the bottom of this block, it no longer looks really, really good. It looks kind of muddy. So perhaps a coolant flush would be a good idea. We're probably not going to handle that this time. I'm pretty glad to see that the exhaust flapper valve actually moves. I think the flapper in my 68 Charger is the only one I've had that actually worked. It makes all kinds of fun rattling noises at idle. And then once it opens up, the noise goes away. But when you shut the car off, you wait 5 minutes and you'll hear that thing snap shut. It's really fun. This replacement booster is a used one I bought from Tom a really long time ago. The check valve was out of it and I lost the seal on accident. So I had to make a new seal out of the seal off of the previous booster, which didn't quite fit right. I think it's good now. Another day, another pump and pray master cylinder replacement. Of course, we do need to bench bleed this, which will be very easy with the one cylinder and everything. You can do this one of a couple ways. You can get one of those bleeding kits that runs a line up in here, and then you press the dealy bob, it forces air bubbles out, pulls fluid back in, and eventually it's all fluid. Or you can just plug this and then pump this thing, and eventually all the air will work its way out this way. It takes a bit, but it's pretty effective. Here's one of those plugs installed in the master cylinder fitting. These are often, but not always, included with the new masters. I've accumulated a good few of these over the years, thankfully. You know, if I'd actually looked in the box, I would have found these. Anyway, we got it. I've got it tight in the vise, and I've filled the master cylinder reservoir most of the way with some nice clean .3 brake fluid. So now I'm going to take a screwdriver, and I'm going to do this. And after enough doing this, all the air bubbles will come out, and this piston should feel pretty much rock solid. Then it's time to install it in the car. Now the angle you've got it clamped in the vise can make a difference too. Notice I tipped it this way, and that actually helped me get the last few air bubbles out of this thing. You can see how much fluid it's drawn down. I had it filled right to here, so it's like 3/8 of an inch lower or something like that. And we're pretty much good to go at this point. I generally don't paint master cylinders. I prefer to let them just rust naturally. But if you're going to do that, I would wait until you're done bench bleeding it. If you paint it first and then get brake fluid on that, well, it's not going to be painted for very long. Sometimes I find that the best way for me to help move a project along is to leave. So I did that and I got us coffee. And look at this. The booster and master are installed.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh. Good job, Alan.
Hey, OSHA, is this safe?
It's a while later, and the Newport is hovering once again.
That's totally gonna be brakes.
Alan made a mess. Well, it didn't take us too long. We've got all the brakes bled, and they seem to do braking, which is just incredible. While we're under here, I wanted to point out a couple things. First, the 727 is puking fluid everywhere. That's pretty typical for these things. As mentioned, it had leaked enough fluid in my driveway that it wouldn't go into gear at all anymore. There's probably nothing I can do to fix that. I mean, I could replace every seal on it, but I'm not going to. Typically what happens is the torque converter drains back down into the transmission as it sits. Then that fluid level rises and it comes up to meet all of the different O-rings and seals in these transmissions. You've got your shift cable here, you've got your kickdown or TV or throttle, whatever, seal up there, and then you've got the dipstick. That's in addition, of course, to the pan gasket, which could also leak. Usually it's just all of it. When you drive them every day and the torque converter stays full of fluid, this isn't usually a problem. We found that the pitman and idler arm at least have been replaced. You can see they have the foam seals in there instead of the traditional rubber boots. The idler arm in particular has some play in it. That is just so typical of all of these classic Mopars. I will not be fixing it. I think I alluded to this engine having been rebuilt in the previous video. There are some good ways to know that for sure. First, it's totally the wrong color. This engine is supposed to be turquoise, but it's blue, and I don't see any evidence of that turquoise anywhere. So that tells me it was stripped at one point and repainted. I showed you that crazy timing tab thing that was homemade in the last video. Well, now I see the silicone they used to stick that onto the engine. When we get tune-up parts, we're gonna get a fuel filter. That one has seen some stuff. The one thing I forgot to do before hooking up the line to the pump last time, blow the fuel line out. That would have been a really good idea. I have no idea what's going on with this transmission mount. It's a rubber disc, and then it's a giant spring, and a bolt that's not at all tight. Is that normal for these? I don't know. I'm not familiar with that at all. Sure doesn't look right though. This car is not a total pile, but it is rusty. The worst spot is here on the driver's side floor. So you can see it's kind of sort of coming down onto the torsion bar. I don't know why there's rubber mat here. Maybe that was put in to strengthen it. If it was an actual rubber mat car, it probably just wouldn't have floors at all anymore. The pinion seal leaks. Of course the pinion seal leaks. That's normal. I don't think I ever pointed out that someone has added seat belts to the back seat of this thing. Dude, we got brakes for days. This is awesome. Woo! I hear brake boosting. Nice! Dude, we've got working brakes. No more squeaky. Nice. Gonna need to test those a bit. Bet them in, you know. This thing runs pretty darn good. I am still thinking some basic tune-up stuff's gonna be a good idea. First time actually driving down the road. Oh, we should turn the wipers on. Wiper blades, also a good idea. We got a wobbly wheel. I think one of the rears is doing stuff. These are mags that use a mag style nut. That's what locates them. And we're missing a nut or two here or there. We do now have most of the backwards ones on the driver's side. I suppose it could also be a horrible ancient dry rotted tires. These are far from spring chickens, or whatever it is people say. Look at it, it left my driveway. I think the brake light switch adjustment was good. I think those are just running lights. Hopefully it's good. Couldn't figure out what the noise back there was. I left the rear defrost on. What a perfect day for a bath. Woo! Wow, it's so blue. You know, I thought this was original paint, but the primer and the general wear of it confirmed that is a lie. It's definitely been on there for a long time. There have been various touch-ups. You can see the scrapes and the little rust spots down below and everything. There are like 4 different versions of this paint on the car. I don't know, it's got a cool flavor to it. More paint than I would have liked is coming off up here. There's no question it looks a whole lot better. Pretty cool. The lights got considerably brighter. I think those were actually new bulbs when this thing was parked. The back end cleaned up really well. All the horrible mossy stuff is gone, and even got the sticker cleaned up. Now it's time to vacuum some stuff, drain a pond, and kill some spiders. Also, maybe some mold. All right, we're fixing the trunk. Oh, don't fix it too good. That cardboard's wet. Draining the trunk.
Now this is happening. Gross. Very gross. Yeah, might be carpet time. It's a shame this forward look floor mat is so shot. These things are kind of cool. Apparently this car's been to Bible camp a few times. It's really amazing how solid this floor is. Also, that smells. Also, I probably should have taken the filter out of the shop vac. Now it's better. Well, apparently he was a musician as well.
Listen, it's all bad, but it definitely is better.
Yeah, it's better.
Brand new, it is not, but that cleaned up pretty good. This is kind of a different story. Gross.
Remember she had the wrist injury?
I believe this is the first time this car has been back on the road in 15 years. That's certainly not an all-time high for years spent sitting around not driven. But it still feels like quite an accomplishment. Holy crap, the temperature gauge works. That means the volt limiter in the dash works. So now we just have to figure out the fuel gauge thing, which honestly might be the broken ground strap on the sending unit. You know, all of the speedometer was lit up. Then half of it was lit up, then none of it was lit up, then all of it was lit up again, and we're back to half. So obviously, there's some room for improvement. This is great, though. I can see, even with these ancient wiper blades, the defrost works, the rear defrost works. It's warm. I forgot to air up the tires. This is awesome. It rides just, well, nice. Doesn't handle amazingly. I think this thing has a sway bar. Doesn't it have a sway bar? No, I don't think it does. Lower line Chryslers didn't. It would definitely benefit from that, though.
Spooky.
Yes. Just listen to this thing. All of the trim, the little emblems, things really cleaned up well on this car. As you can see, the paint is pretty well seasoned. And I know we could improve that too, but it would take a lot of time we don't have right now. Lots of commenters loved the slots. I also love the slots. I think they're perfect. What I was saying is that 15-inch slots would be a better fit for the car. But the 14s aren't bad at all. They filled out the rear quarters pretty well. The front, not so much. I'm sure it will be obvious that this car could use a lot more improving. I still haven't done that tune-up I said I was going to do, and I still haven't changed the oil. I don't know how many miles this thing has done since the engine was rebuilt. Maybe not very many. I think I half remembered the story of this car in the last video, but Mitch confirmed it for me. An older gentleman owned this thing. It was in an accident. He fixed the front end, rebuilt the engine, and he was putting the car back together. It was stored inside for years, and then he passed away. His son didn't know what to do with the car, but he couldn't stand to look at it. So he called the junkyard and he had it hauled off. And that's where we found it. And obviously that's very unfortunate. This thing has been sitting for years, and I know that gentleman had a dream of getting it back on the road. Well, now it is. And bit by bit, it can be improved even further, refined, and turned into the perfect daily driver. At this point, I've done everything I can to help push it in that direction. It's roadworthy, give or take. Tires would be a nice idea. But in general, it's a usable car now, and that is awesome. Mitchell's plan is to remove this horrible carpet, address the rust issues in the floor here. New seat upholstery may be in the plan if it's out there, but for now, I'm thinking the poncho seat covers would be really good. The headliner's minty, that's gotta stay. Obviously it needs to be cleaned though. I, for one, am just thrilled to see this car running and driving away. I need to do that with a lot more projects, and in the coming weeks, I hope to. If you're trying to find a cool piece of classic iron to bomb around in and improve, use as a project vehicle, but you don't have a 68 to 70 Charger budget, consider one of these C-bodies, especially if you're down with the 4-door. These are comfy, awesome cruisers. They often have big blocks, and they are guaranteed to cost less than the more desirable muscle cars. This was a shorter video than usual. This thing really didn't need a whole lot more at the end of the last video to get back on the road. Yeah, I swear we should have been a week ago, but we're here now and I am pleased. Hopefully you are too. In any case, thank you very much for watching. And remember, any big blocks is good big blocks. Yeah, sway bar. What a good idea. Oh, this thing's sweet. I think I'm actually gonna miss it. Really? Reverse lights? Wow. Bye-bye now.